Today we're going to discuss the meaning of the new year. As we are aware, it has been celebrated throughout the ages, but what is its significance from the theosophical viewpoint? And these excerpts come from HPB's writings solely. And she tells us that division of the year into solar and lunar months was adopted by many peoples, prehistoric as well as historic. And it is the sun that is returning from its southernmost journey back up to the northern hemisphere again. And this is the important part. She says, when the sun is coming back to the northern hemisphere, which is a return, brings with it revivifying influences to all the kingdoms of nature. And these influences touch the inner life of all forms and give a renewed impetus to expansion and growth. So, it is important that we take note of the month of December and January, because last week's talk touched upon the descent of the gods of Olympus to our hemisphere. And HPV is telling us that this is not an imaginary thing, but it is real, and that the astral field or astral life of Earth is renewed. So there is this energy that is added to the atmosphere. It's electromagnetic, but it is there. She says, if we take into consideration this influence that is upon us, then we can take advantage of the season, and whatever it is that we undertake to do would have added impetus to it. In the previous talk, we had also talked about the progressive awakenings of the soul, and during this period we can take advantage of the season and move that forward. What is the first awakening of the soul? The very first one. This is a very important question. What is the first awakening in that series of awakenings? Man comes on the scene, and it is a struggle to be in the world. That is the animal man with this image. But the first acknowledgement of the soul, of its true life, is that it is a soul. That is a switch. So the first awakening is that the man has become aware that he's not a body, he's a soul. And from now on, he's going to struggle with this, with the soul life, because until that first stage is achieved, no progression is possible. But this season gives it impetus. Whatever it is that we wish to do, the gods are all around us, and we are going to talk about who the gods are. She tells us that so many saviors of the world had come on the scene. Now, we're not talking about 2,000 years. We're talking about how many years? 18 million years. Human beings have been in evolution as men and women for 18 million years. She tells us that if we just think that there is only one Son of God, this becomes a derision of human destiny. And then she goes on to tell us that the Savior of the world was always born in December, and she gives us the names: Persian, Mithra, Egyptian Osiris, the Greek Bacchus, Phoenician Adonis, Phrygian Athis. And she says all these gods come before us to bring the same message. So to say that there's only one Son of God is derision. It's misleading. The saviors of the world then are born unto it, and yet she says the world is as miserable as it always has been, and perhaps in Kali Yuga we are even more wretched than the previous eras. What's the significance of January? Janus, the god of time, is what is celebrated in January. Is the god of time. Januaris or Janus. Now, in the olden days, Janus was represented with two heads joined together. One is looking to the east, and I did take a picture, but it didn't come. One face is looking this way, and the other face is looking that way. So he is joined at the neck, and one face is looking to the east and the other one to the west. Why? The one face is looking to the past, and the other is looking to the future, to the coming year. What is the coming year for us? 2013. What are the significance of these numbers? Did you think about it? And the sun god had an altar with 12 basic gods at the feet. Who are these gods?
February.
No, these gods represented the zodiac, because the zodiac influences human life tremendously. So at the base, there were 12 gods. He's the major god, but the minor gods are at his feet. And there's an altar for each one of them. And she tells us that the name of the sun was Sun Christ. Sun Christ. This is a title. It's not a name. It's a title. Title. It's not a name. Sun Christ. And she says in his right hand he has 300, and in his left hand 65. And what do we get when we add them? The year. 365 days in the year. And in one hand he had a key, and the other one a scepter, and hence his name is the janitor, the doorkeeper of the heavens, because January is going to open the heavens and allow the influences to come further down. And the old Roman coins, she tells us, had this picture on it on one side and a boat on the other side. Why? Let us use our imagination, she tells us, and think that we can take that picture to be the prototype of Peter, the fisherman of the celestial ship, the upper realm. So Peter resides over the evangelists, and Janus resides over the four seasons. In occultism, she tells us, potency and significance of numbers and numerals lie in their right application and permutation. What is she getting at? For that, we go to the Secret Doctrine, and you can all refer to it, to page 4, 5, and 6 of the Proem. I printed it because I cannot carry two books. I have Isis, but I did not bring my own Secret Doctrine. Now, as we can see, there is a 2013 in this equation. What is 20? 2 times 10? So we have the perfect number 10, we have a 2, and we have a 0, and we have a 1, and we have a 3. What is the permutation of pi when you move this way? 3.1415. So we'll talk about it. On page 4, she tells us that we have to look at the universe as a disk, potential space that has the universe in it. And she explains, which is extremely important to understand. Please do go to the Secret Doctrine, because understanding the years is really very important, because it gives a signification as to what is coming to us. She says at the first differentiation, we're talking about an ever-eternal nature, sexless and infinite. Infinite. Sexless, infinite. That is the 0, which is the egg, which contains everything in it. And she says, when we get the horizontal line, we have now symbolizing the immaculate mother nature. What has happened? Division has occurred. And then she tells us, when this becomes a cross within the diameter, humanity has reached its 3rd root race, the sign of the origin of human life to begin. When the circumference disappears and leaves only the cross, it is the sign that men have fallen into matter, and this is completely accomplished, and the 4th race begins. The cross within the circle, she says, symbolizes pure pantheism. When it is unscribed, when the circumference has disappeared, it becomes phallic. What's phallic? Generative. In other words, Father Nature emanates out of itself and gives that impulse to nature through differentiation to what? To bring about change. Then she goes into the Egyptian sign. This is the Tau or Tao. And that is also called Thor's hammer or a swastika. The swastika is on inscriptions in India, and it is a divine sign. Please don't associate it with the Germanic change that came about with that sign. So then the horizontal divides the diameter. What is that representative of? The femininity of nature, the receptivity, because it's going to accept the spiritual impulse and bloom. But then she says, when the separation of the sexes occurred by natural evolution, the figure becomes this. What is this? 10. 10. The perfect number 10. Where's ours? 1, 0. 10. And it is a double glyph. Why? Because the 5th race, which is us, have separated into 2 sexes, male and female. But at its beginning, what did we say it was? Androgynous. So we are androgynous. One side of us is repressed, the other side is expressed. And then she goes into the Kabbalistic emblematic explanation, and she says in Hebrew the 5th race is represented by Sakir. this word, S-A-C-R, with that on it. And Ralston Skinner's book addresses these issues. This student have found in the recent months that Ralston Skinner was HPB's student, Kabbalistic student, and he wrote the mathematical equation as to how the world evolves out of the ovum or the circle. And he talks about the quadrature of the square in that book. I haven't deciphered it yet, but I'm working on it, so you might want to look at it. What is the sign for us? Normally, we go and do a star, right? The fifth race has a star for its sign, but how is it done? This bit, the bottom, is up. How on earth did she do that? I think it's this way. It's not very good, but it has two horns, in other words. She says, this is the sign for sorcery. Well, I was not very impressed with our sign. The fifth race have become sorcerers? What exactly does that mean? We're upside down. We have become so materialistic, we don't pay attention to our spiritual nature. Our soul nature is repressed. We are immersed in our material nature. So what the first student read is to give us a clue as to where we need to go with it. We need to activate the inner qualities or aspects of the soul and reverse this star to its original position. Make it a one-pointed shining light. So she says, a sign of human sorcery with its 2 points, horns, turned heavenward, a position every occultist will recognize as one of the left hand and used for ceremonial magic. This student does not understand how it is done, but there it is, she tells us. I will not go into it any further than that. Please go to the Secret Doctrine and read it. Don't have enough time to explain any further. However, we are going to go to the Isis Unveiled. She has 2 diagrams. One is Vedic, Aditi, and the other one is Kabbalistic, Tikkun. And please look at it. This is where the differences in theological dogma comes from. It is merely misunderstood. There was, by the way, a PBS program where the philosophers who are addressing these issues are themselves coming up and saying that the interpretation of the Bible is wrong. This is not my words. That it is not to be literally translated, but that it has an inner meaning that needs to be understood. This student was very pleased to hear that. Very pleased to hear it. Now, we go to page 267 of the Isis, and she tells us that she's talking about the emanation from Tikkun or Aditi. What is it? We have done it, many times before, but it is significant for the new year to understand where we are and where we are going. What is its significance when she gave us that diagram? She always told us Atma Buddhi Manas is the higher triad, but its correspondence is cosmical. And these numbers are cosmical numbers. We are digits down here, but these are glyphs in the heavens. So they signify as to what is going to happen to us in our coming year, if we can decipher what it really means. The significance is this. She says, and she gives all of the Hebrew characters, but I'm not familiar with them. So if you need to look at them, please go to this article on 260, this passage on 267. She says, two sides of the upper triangle, the right side and the base, are composed of unbroken lines. The third, the left side, is dotted. That's my left, but that's the left side. It is through the latter that emerges Sephira. Sephira is the minor gods in the Kabbalistic system. Spreading in every direction, she finally encompasses the whole triangle. We're talking about the light or fire. They're synonymous terms. A spiritual fire, a spiritual light, homogeneous substance, however you want to say it, it's all the same thing. In this emanation of the female active principle from the left side of the mystic triangle is foreshadowed the creation of Eve from Adam's left rib. This is what it represents, but this is how it is written in the Bible. Adam is the microcosm of the macrocosm and is created in the image of Elohim. In the tree of life, the triple triad is disposed in such a manner that the three male Sephirah are on the right, the three female on the left, and the four uniting principles in the center. From the indivisible dew falling from the higher head, Kether is what it is specifically, Sephirah creates primeval water or chaos taking shape, primordial substance or space. It is the first step toward the solidification of a spirit which through various modifications will produce earth. So we are not to humanize these concepts, not anthropomorphize them. They are simply metaphysical concepts that has been humanized and carnalized in the world religions. That's the only difference between any religion. Because if we take it to the absolute and then from the absolute it is going to come into the world, we have to accept that there is something beyond the manifested world. Well, the Hebrew Tanaim did not give it out. She says that the higher initiates express it how? Mouth to ear. It is not anything that is written. In the olden days, the Kabbalah was studied orally only. It was not written. Whatever it is written starts at the creation of the universe. And she tells us that in the hidden sense, Sephirah and Adam are one and the same light, only latent and active, invisible and visible. The second Adam, as the human tetragram, produces in his turn Eve out of his side. It is the second triad with which the Kabbalists have hitherto dealt, hardly hinting at the supreme and ineffable one, and never committing anything to writing. So please continue with this reading on your own. It really sheds a tremendous amount of light as to why the Bible has been anthropomorphized. Apparently, the Christian fathers, not the Gnostic fathers, the Orthodox fathers could not wrap their heads around this philosophy, and they humanized it. They start at creation only and have created a tremendous amount of misery for the Western world. So, now, where we go? Here it is. And I would like to share with you some thoughts on the new year. This is from HPB. It's a direct quote. Let no one imagine that it is a mere fancy the attaching of importance to the birth of the year. The earth passes through its phases and men with it. And as a day can be colored, so can a year. The astral life of the earth is young and strong between Christmas and Easter. Those who form their wishes now will have added a strength to fulfill them consistently. So this is a real thing. She says, when we make our resolutions and send New Year greetings, we should all have these thoughts in mind and not send an evil eye greeting to people rather than a goodwill message. So, in retrospect, and this student felt it necessary to bring this to the forefront because there is again some kind of movement in the world that we should all unite. But we need to think how this unification is going to happen and what is necessary for it to be a true brotherhood, a true unification. And it is stated here that there is a body of knowledge, because we talked about the masters and the path that leads to them. The Secret Doctrine, Isis Unveiled, Ocean of Theosophy, Universal Theosophy, these books are written in cipher form. It has significance to remember that. And Theosophy, as a body of representing this knowledge in the world, is dedicated to the purpose of its study, application, promulgation. First, we have to learn it. In other words, we have to put it in and allow it come. It's information when it goes in, but it turns into knowledge when it comes forth. And then we have to apply it to daily life and then give it to others who are interested in it and want to learn it. H.P. Blavatsky named it, this body of knowledge for the Western world, Theosophy, wisdom of the ages. As a matter of justice to the message and gratitude to the messenger, only that which she gave and so named should be entitled to that name Theosophy, because there are other books on the market, but this article says only what the masters sent into the world through the messenger is true Theosophy. And theosophical students ought to pay tremendous attention to it, because if we change the message, it perpetrates an injustice upon all students and inquirers present and to come. To conserve that message in its purity has to be our endeavor. HPB was their messenger who delivered this message, and the wisdom of this message cannot be questioned, because the masters know what is going on in the world and what the world can handle, and they gave out as much as the world could absorb. So, to speak with reverence and show gratitude is a natural aspect of this philosophy, because it comes from the core of the imperishable center of each human heart. So this knowledge is within us. What we are trying to do is bring it forth. And in saying this, the accredited agent HPB and her estimation of Mr. Judge also comes to the forefront. He was apparently in obscuration because a lot of friction occurred and they decided to drop his name. But it cannot be so, because he exemplified the practical use of the philosophy in daily life, and his writing for the most part are devoted to that purpose. So the two go together. his name, nature, mission, work, and his intimate relation to the finding of the Theosophical Society at that time needs to be acknowledged. But to what end? That personalities may be exalted and worshipped? Perish the idea, says the masters. The sole view is that the right appreciation, understanding, and use of the philosophy as given by the teachers become general knowledge for the public. This is its aim. And then we are told that there has been a failure on our part to disseminate it in universal terms so that its application would become broader and widespread. This is karma. It is given under karma, it is learned under karma, and it is disseminated under karma. And we need to remember that we cannot, the students of Theosophy are constantly pushing the boundaries of that wall to break the wall down so that it can have a better spread, because she tells us in the 5 messages to the American Theosophies that the saving of the Western world is dependent on this philosophy. And she says if we take it to heart and if we understand the message and its significance, then we will do all that we can to promulgate it. And masters became such under karma, and the transmitter, H.P. Blavatsky, their messenger, also was brought out into the Western world under karma. Their message permitted only as much as it could be given. In this regard, I read to you the ending of the Secret Doctrine 2. She says, these 2 volumes should form for the student a fitting prelude for volumes 3 and 4. It entirely depends upon the reception with which volumes 1 and 2 will meet at the hands of Theosophists and mystics, whether these last 2 volumes will be ever published, though they are almost completed. Did she give it out? No, they were never published. However, plagiarism goes on, and the article says students, the serious ones, are entitled to unmutilated text. Nevertheless, the ending of the Secret Doctrine was changed such that some spurious 3rd volume appeared on the scene. It is not real, and she is warning us that plagiarism goes on. She names the articles and the organizations that were doing it at that time. There was one in Scotland, and she says to be very aware of this danger to ourselves and to be very cautious in telling others that this is a true result, this plagiarism by psychics and others in the world, that they bring it forth. And I think the one in America was called Awakened at that time. And then this, and please be aware of this statement. When man is born, the molecules or lives that are to compose his physical and astral forms are from that moment under his reign. So the physical body, the astral body, and all of our sheath then is an alchemical workshop in a sense. And during this period, they pass through a smaller manvantara just as the lives in the universe do. And when we die, we leave them all impressed with the force and color of our thoughts and aspirations, ready to be used in composing the houses of other egos, the bodies of other egos. During a period of manifestation, ours being Kali Yuga, the egos incarnating must use over and over again what we leave behind. So therefore, we are now using in our incarnations matter that has been used by ourselves and other egos over and over again and are affected by the various tendencies impressed upon it. This is also something we have to overcome. It's not that just we use it, but others also use it. And how we impress it is tremendously important. We're either uplifting them. What are we talking about here? We are talking about mineral, we're talking about vegetable, we're talking about animal substances. These are the kingdoms below us. And remember, as we look to the heavens for guidance, they also look up to us for guidance. So we are truly in charge of these lives. And we are leaving behind us for future races that which will help them or embarrass them in their future lives. How enormous, she says, then is this responsibility, that we not only are to be judged for what we do with ourselves as a whole, but also for what we do for those unseen beings who are dependent upon us for light. What about the coming cycle? We're warned that the karma of the nations are going to be settled. Oh, where is the...
It's underneath there.
On the right-hand side of your podium.
Oh,
The drawer.
thank you. Settling of karma. Are we exempt? No. She says this settlement is also includes America. Were our principles not those of self-interest, we might hope to escape much of the pain of readjustment. But unfortunately, she says, our policies exhibit nothing else, and we will not be able to avoid the consequences. Much of these might have been mitigated had the theosophists in Europe and America taken theosophy as the message of masters and given it all the consideration that such acceptance demanded. Have we done that? No. Theosophy then is here to change the mind of the race, that a strife will give place to friendly emulation, unbrotherliness to mutual helpfulness. So let all who realize this resolve to study and promulgate the teachings of theosophy in every possible direction, making a universal application of all the doctrines to ourselves, our surroundings, our peoples, the world in general, and to all beings, while taking advantage of the rising cycle of the new year to give a strength and persistency to our aspirations and efforts. She tells us that the sun, Helios, the son of Hyperion, is shining upon us. And this is what she says. Those on whom thou beamest thy greatest radiance must be, as in the legend of Apollo, good and kind men. And she goes on to say, let us hope that this shining will change the earth into the habitat of Helios, the sun, the Lord of our mini-universe. We will finish the talk with a passage from HPB.
It is January the 4th, which ought to be selected by the Theosophists, the solstices especially as their new year. January is under the sign of Capricornus, the mysterious Makara of the Hindu mystics, the Kumaras, it being stated having incarnated in mankind under the 10th sign of the zodiac. For ages, the 4th of January has been sacred to Mercury Buddha, or Thoth Hermes. Thus everything combines to make of it a festival to be held by those who study ancient wisdom. Whether called Bud or Budai, by its Aryan name Mercuriosus, the son of Celes and Hecate, truly or of the divine white and infernal black, magic, by its Hellenic or again Hermes or Thoth, its Greco-Egyptian name, the day seems in every way more appropriate for us than January 1st, the day of Janus, the double-faced god of the time servers. Yet it is well named and as well chosen to be celebrated by all the political opportunists of the world over.
So, as you can see, she is telling us to celebrate our New Year on January 4th because it is sacred to Hermes or Buddha. And what is the significance of that? Because she says Hermes put a brain into the heads of those who were civil to him. She certainly uses words in a different manner, but it is true. The Capricornus, 10th sign of the zodiac, is under which the virgin sons of the sun, the Kumaras, actually gave us the mind principle at the middle of the third race. And we're still struggling with the lower mind and trying to free it from kama, which is our animal nature, allowing the light to shine through and enabling the divine mind to come forth and assist us in dealing with all of the problems that we face today. So, as we wish to go into 2013, let us make this our wish that we can help change the kama manas into buddhi manas, enabling this forward movement to come about. Thank you. We will answer questions if you have any. Otherwise, we will socialize. Yes?
Well, I heard at one point it mentioned that that something couldn't be questioned, that it was something was unquestionable. Can you either restate that or explain in what sense anything really is beyond question?
The wisdom of the masters is what the student was referring to in selecting how much of that wisdom religion to give out for the 19th century through their messenger HPB. And it made it very clear to the student's mind that they wanted to see how it was going to be received in the world and how the theosophical student themselves were going to accept it, make it their own, and work for this change of the mind to come about. But considering that all that strife that went on within and outside made it impossible, karmically, obviously, for the third and the fourth volumes to come about. The third volume would give us practicality of the philosophy that was expressed in the first two volumes, and I believe one of them traced the adepts throughout the world, giving us an indication as to who and what they were and what position they had occupied within the 2,000 years of the historical era as well as the prehistoric time. So, to question the masters would be saying that they didn't know what they were doing, and that is not possible. We can question the philosophy because, as stated, this student has read the philosophies over and over again, and every time it is being read, a new meaning comes to the forefront. So it's not the writings, it's the student that has to change. As the Buddhimanas becomes more active, more of the information in it is divulged, because she says, I have left everything exoteric as well as esoteric in these books. In other words, the masters would not leave the students of theosophy at the mercy of charlatans or pretenders or whatever, because if it is not written, how would we know it is real? And its value is that the messenger wrote it as given by the masters. Many places she also says the stuff was dictated by them to her. And then she had her own students, Skinner being one of them, and she helped him write it in mathematical form. For those minds that are mathematically oriented, then they can get it that way. So she made sure that the philosophy, the basic tenets and the aspects of philosophy, pure and simple, meaning that it is common sense, that when you think about it, the value of the statement becomes clear to yourself. So that bit we cannot question as to why, how much of it was given. We can question the philosophy as to our understanding of it, but as to the form it was given in, how much of it was given in, we cannot question that. We have to earn the right for the other 2 volumes to also come onto the scene. This student would like to see them, because she went to all that trouble. She says, I'm doomed to write. She says, I sit at the desk, I eat oatmeal, and I'm writing day and night. She sacrificed her life in writing. So it would be great if we could have those books. But how much of this have we learned is the other question. Yes?
My question is about the numbers, because it was clear through the talk that the numbers carry significance. They are
Yes.
the keys. But given that we have so many different numbers, that it's the people who change numbering from BC to AD, that the number maybe should have been different today if we wouldn't change it. Or there's so many other, there's a Hebrew numbering of years, there's so many different numbering of years, that how can we ever know which number are we living now in, or do we go by our numbering because Madame Blavatsky gave the key to these numbers?
In the proem, she gives the key to the glyph signs. Numbers are glyphs. She calls them divine numbers. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is 10. This here is 10. It cuts the circle into this vertical, and it is 10. These are divine numbers. Because they have as proportion significance. The universe is built on proportion of these numbers. And the key is what? Pi. It's yeah, is it one?
You got it. Yeah.
Something like this. Okay, it goes and it goes to infinity because it is endless. She says, in order for us as souls to understand the secret doctrine, we must understand the significance of the circle. This is the universe before it becomes into manifestation. She says, when you put that, it indicates the first initial impulse to differentiation. So, if you look at it that way, and what is the significance? It's very significant because we're constantly talking about brotherhood and unity. And this shows that truly we are united. Where are we? We occupy a space in time, okay? But remember what she said. It is infinite. The principle we come from, not from, but the essence that gives rise to us as individualities is infinite. So, and those who have this experience of coma or similar occurrences, they say, I wondered how I could possibly fit into this body again. When they had that experience, out of the body experience, they became one with the universe. And she says, I don't know how I'm going to get in that thing again. So we are boundless, and we represent that essence that is infinite in its nature. So it is the human mind that limits it. And with this explanation, she's trying to open that mind outward to be inclusive of the whole of the universe. Why? How can we not be interconnected? We're all interconnected. If the essence is omnipresent and omnipotent, and I come from that, well, where's the difference between any of us? The difference comes from not being able to see it internally with the pineal gland or the third eye. When this is open, it shows you. And it is not a one-step thing. This is what that progressive awakening of the soul statement comes from. As this gland activates, how is it now? It is dormant. It's like a little sand in a little tiny circle. It's like this, with sand in it. What happened to it? It ossified, obviously. We made it solidify. So what is it that we're going to do? With the progressive awakenings of the soul, we are to activate this principle. Without the activation process, what is it that we're limited to? The three-dimensional world that we live in. This is the one that opens it wide open. And it gives you that momentary feeling that you can be on Mars and back again. Because in reality, there is no separation anywhere. It seems that way. Please don't take my word. Sit at meditation and try to rise up to the Buddhi monastic plane, because it is real, it does exist, and sometimes you will do it, sometimes you will not do it, but when you do it, it is the proof that what is being said is reality. Because otherwise, it comes from the mouth of somebody, or you're reading it on paper. But when you experienced it once, it is yours for the rest of the duration. You will never, ever forget it, because it will be imprinted in your mind, and that progressive awakening moves from there onward. So these numbers are how God geometrizes. How? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Atma, Buddhi, Manas. The spirit, the spiritual discrimination, mind, or Mahat. Each one has a cosmic reference. Not just in you, it's in the universe as well. So the ones that are in you correspond with the universal aspect. And when that pineal gland opens the door and you look at it, then you will understand what they're talking about. What is number 4? Quaternary. The physical man is represented by that. And when you join them together, this is the triangle, and this is the mind here connecting the two. What have you become? Sapta, 7. Sapta is 7, and the number for this Kali Yuga is number 7. 7 is the number. So, do you see how they have significance? What is 5? As, 5th root race. The man, a star. How did he do it? This way and that way. It has two horns, in other words, two horns. So that's us. That's the sign for Kali Yuga for men. And in the sixth sub-race, we're going to get another another sense organ and another ability, and she calls it permeability. And then the seventh is going to make us spiritual units. In combination, we're going to become adepts world all over. But we have a lot of work to do. We can't expect it to come to us. The reason why masters are not in the world, it is stated, is that they want us to try harder. When do they come to us? In sleep. They can implant anything in that mind of ours, but they're the white adepts. They can implant in the mind some direction, some little information. This student many a time goes to bed. I have been thinking about this problem for months. I can't come up with the answer. One morning I wake up, oh, that's what it means. I sit at meditation and I think of it. I can't come up with the answer. But when I wake up one morning, it's there. Where do you think it came from? From the higher mind? But the masters and the higher mind are one because they work on the Buddhi monastic plane. There is no separation for the mind field. What is humanity's reservoir of knowledge is available to all of us. All we have to do is tap into it. And what is a 6? 7 is the number for us. 8 is 2 times 4. 9 is 3 times 3. It's a repeating number, 3. But eventually we're going to be the perfect number. We're not perfect yet. We're barely 3 because the higher principles do not incarnate in us at this time. So this was the aspiration of the masters for our universe, for the theosophical body of the students, to bring about the change in manas, to remove the kamic element from our world as much as possible, in the sense that it drags us. Kama manas is worldly, and it drags us. If we allow it, and when the Buddha gets initiated and works with the higher mind, and when it gets yoked together, when the Buddhi manas is permanently yoked, what have we become? Seers. We have become initiates, because we now are initiated into the inner mysteries of human life. And this is their aspiration for us. Thank you.
And our next meeting will be January 6th, next Sunday at 11 a.m. at 4865A Cordell Avenue, Suite 230. The topic of next week will be, what does the Aquarian Age mean for us? And you can access us at any time at www.ultdc.org. Thank you for joining us.